Well, same old story, really. Cloudy with some hill fog and scattered outbreaks of rain developing this morning, becoming more widespread and quite heavy at times, then turning more showery late afternoon. Moderate or fresh east to southeast winds and a top temperature today of 11. Showers or a spell of rain overnight will gradually move away late in the night as the brisk wind veers south to southwest, with the minimum temperature overnight 8 Celsius. The outlook, dry and bright for Monday with spells of sunshine. Temperatures reaching 12, but with a strengthening south or southwesterly wind, then turning cloudy as well later before rain arrives tomorrow night. Tuesday morning will be wet and windy with strong to gale force southerlies, and the rain will become heavy at times. The rain will clear away during the afternoon with winds on Tuesday easing later and then highs of 12 Celsius. Let's have the weather now in Manx with Phil Gawne.
Well, ma dúirt Simon and scéal chadjan. Bádjalach leis cé enas leidjan as fia bridgeamach mar a dú chit de Venus Balcha as trubben na kieten. Echt na smú frasach na sanma sanjasta. Gia menach na bio vain ja na nja jas as temprele smú mush 9 Celsius. As an riet. Chirum as gial jaloon les shell and grianach. Temprele skirigus 10 Celsius les an gia njataga vain jas na jas shia. Echt bádjalach na sanma roos me vis an flia chieterash. Fod na hí. Bí a fliochas rastach mar a gemeurt leis gael njatel vai an jas as flia trubben na kieten. Bí an flia slotiel as a soul ons an jasta leis an gia todjum na sanma as temprele smú 10 Celsius.
Getting us going on our easy listener, Moghrey Jedoonee, for a Sunday morning, and our guest Phil Gawne. Mormai, Phil Castan.
Mormai, I Timmy Brow. It's I'm fine. It's disappointing this miserable weather. To fee trimjach as try and emsha trimjach sad and sorry sort of weather.
Sad and sorry, yeah. That's the way it is. What are we going to be talking about this morning?
Well, that depends on whether I manage to gather all these papers. But if you recall, when I first came on the programme, about nearly 2 months ago now, we did a list of Manx dialect words still in use in 1965, and I was testing you on them. So we got about halfway through, so we'll have another go at those.
All right.
There's also a couple of articles that I've been reading over the last few weeks. One about saving an endangered language. The sociolinguistic scholar Ben Frey helps revitalise Cherokee. So that'll be interesting. We might learn a little bit of Cherokee, or I'll have a stab at it anyway.
Type of aeroplane, isn't it?
Well, it could be. Then also an interesting thing, which is probably not an awful lot to do with culture, but might be at some point in the future, is what is transhumanism and how does it affect you?
Is it legal in the Isle of Man?
Well, that's another question. Perhaps with the new equality legislation, it will be. And then to finish, I've got Manx Ballads and Music, which is a fantastic book that A.W. Moore edited, and it's just extracts of as many Manx songs as A.W. Moore could find. And what we'll do is I'll pick one of those. I'm not entirely sure at the moment. Maybe Marinus and Tiger, The Voyage of the Tiger, which is a rather excellent song where there's Manxies. Yeah, I'll go with that.
I was born in the year of the tiger.
Were you? Yeah. Right, okay. Well, this particular tiger is a classic example of Manxness. The Manxies decide that they'll get involved in some war or other. I forget exactly which one it was, but they would go out and they would capture a ship and bring it back with all the plunder. But of course they captured the wrong side, which was a bit of a blow. So they ended up in prison rather than enjoying the praise and acclaim of the people for capturing an enemy ship. They actually captured a friendly one. So I'll do a bit of that in Manx and English towards the end of the show.
Wonderful. Anyway, the Manx dialect words. Then where were we with that?
Right. Well, there's 24 of them, and I think we're about halfway through. So we dealt with things like friggin, which is a frown, ginnel, which is genial or happy, Geel, which
Mischief.
is mischief.
Yeah.
Jawne. I'm sure you would have had a lot of.
Aye, an ear bashing.
Yeah, scolding or yeah. Anyway, so then we'll move on. Let's see. Can you get this one? Maul.
Maul, miserable, wouldn't it?
Yeah, miserable.
Feeling maul.
Yeah, a bit miserable. Yeah, the actual it's a Manx Gaelic word. It means slow, but also that kind of miserable. And if you'd sometimes talk about an animal being maul, which was a bit sickly or what have you. Then there's the mob beg. Have you ever come across the mob beg?
The mob beg.
The mob beg.
No, well I know beg is little. Isn't it?
A small crowd. Which in Manx terms would be a large crowd, of course, because we'd never have a big crowd. The mob beg is a small crowd. You'll know this one. Evi.
Evi, good night.
Yeah. And then pant.
Pant. Oh,
Yeah.
well.
Apparently pant is fun. Now, I didn't know that one, so there you go. The Queltach. You'll have heard of the Queltach.
I have heard of it.
You'll probably have heard of it on New Year's Day, perhaps. The Queltach.
Is it song?
No, the Queltach is the fellow that comes the first foot, effectively.
Oh,
the first person to visit the house.
Yes.
The Queltach.
Bringing you had to be the dark-headed.
Dark-headed.
Or a piece of coal or something. Didn't you?
Woe betide you if they were red-headed or web-toed, or there was all sorts of things that you had to watch.
Yeah.
And then you'll know skeet, of course.
Oh, I gossip, and the Manx are good at that one.
I remember when I was away at uni for a few years, and I was using these words, and people were looking at you, and you think, well, everyone knows what a skeet is, surely. But they didn't, of course. These English ones hadn't come across the words like skeet, and toot was another one. I thought, toot, everyone knows what a toot is, surely.
Yes, baby.
Your big toot.
Yeah.
But no, they didn't. So anyway, so skeet was one of those words that I hadn't realised.
I suppose some of the upper class would know it from the Clay Target days.
Yeah, maybe, yes, yeah. So skeet is a look. Well, I don't know, a skeet is a skeet, isn't it? It's a look, or
Nosy.
And gathering the skeet would be getting all the gossip or the news. Then scotch.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah, a scotch of them. There was a scotch of them there. But you also could use the word, because I remember, maybe I ought to be saying this on the radio, but I remember as a very small child, our next door neighbour, who we described, who I used to call Uncle Fred, he was washing the budgie. And the poor budgie died. But I remember him saying, and I took the budgie, I took him and I put him in the bowl, and I give him a scotch round, and I give him another little scotch round, and anyway, the poor thing died. So, and no wonder, I think. So, scotching a budgie round the washing up bowl is obviously not the way to get the thing clean.
I'm sure that the knowledge of how to clean budgies has improved.
Well, I would hope so. I would hope so. But yeah, a scotch. So a scotch can be a group, but also you can kind of scotch a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, sleech or sleechy.
Sleechy would be sly and
sly, a sly fella, a sleech. They reckon that they used to call Harry Kelly the sleech for some reason up at Craignash. Now I'm not entirely sure why, but presumably because he was a bit that way.
Well, I suppose he had not much else to do but keep an eye on who was going where.
He'd be sleeching about.
Aye.
So sleech is sly, and then a sloch or a sloch.
Sloch is it hill or?
Well, yeah, but a sloch of money would be a store of money, a butt of money. I don't know, what's a butt of money? That doesn't help, does it?
A pile.
A pile of money, a sloch of money. He's got a sloch of money at him.
I've heard that one before.
Spithig.
Spithig. I've heard of that.
Your little spithig. That's a
rascal,
small,
is it?
A small thing or a person. The little spithig, so the sort of little runty fella, the spithig. But it's also used to describe a robin, a little bird like that, a robin or something. A spithig. You'll have heard of Thalton.
Yes, the old buildings.
Yeah, a ruined dwelling. And then finally, of the Manx dialect word still in use in 1965, we have Treadalua. And I would hope that phrase will still be in use for many, many years to come, because I think it's a great philosophy for life.
It is here on the Isle of Man in particular.
Absolutely.
Lovely. Good to hear them ones. 10:09. We'll do the weather first and the duty chemist rota, and then we'll go into this letter that we've got here now. It could be very interesting as well. It's going to be cloudy with some hill fog and scattered outbreaks of rain developing this morning, becoming more widespread and quite heavy at times, then turning more showery late afternoon. Moderate or fresh east or southeast winds and top temperatures of 11. Showers or a spell of rain overnight will gradually move away late in the night as the brisk wind veers south to southwest with a minimum temperature overnight of 8 Celsius.
Bodgelach leis cé enas léidean as flia brishamach maradiu de bhí na spalcha, chit de bhí na spalcha as drum na cétan. Eis na smú frasach na samma sanyaste. Gia ménach na bio bhain nya na nyayas as temprela smú mush 9 Celsius. Chiram as giall Jedoonee leis shall and grianach temprelas giri gus 10 Celsius leis an gia nyataga bhain jas na jas here. Eis bodgelach na samma rish ma vis and flia chit rash fud na hee.
There we are, all available as well, and you can watch Phil and myself in the clarity at high definition on the portal later in the week as well.
Whether they would particularly want to do that, I don't know. But,
well, I don't know. It's the way the technology...
There's always hope, isn't there?
Oh, there is. 10:32 on a Sunday morning. Welcome along to Jedoonee. Means Sunday morning in Manx. And some interesting letters you got there.
Yes, yeah. Well, just before we do, though, of course, news just in. We had a caller into the programme from the north of the Len Trench, saying that the word maul, they were saying, what did they say? Maul. It was the northern pronunciation. Of course, the northern fellas, they had this quite bizarre way of speaking Manx, and the true Manx, obviously, is that spoken in the south of the island, says he, without a smile on his face. But
Don't forget who's controlling the knobs here, you know. You get on with your letter.
So, yes, there's different versions, different variants, but maul seemed to be the northern version of maul that we would use in the south. So this was a couple of letters, and it's interesting, particularly bearing in mind the turnaround of events. The letters that appeared in the Guardian a few months back, and it was entitled "Build Cultural Bridge to Counter Propaganda." And this was in reply, 2 letters in reply to an article written by, and I never quite know how to pronounce this woman's name, Natalie Moghrey, I think. And she wrote on the 31st of January an article entitled, "In an Age of Lies and Distortion, Self-Defense is Essential." And this letter, the first letter, is from the Head of Policy and External Relations at the British Council. And he says, Natalie is right to highlight the risks of propaganda. Technology enables the lightning-fast circulation of narratives, and as a result, international public opinion can be increasingly volatile. Propaganda and fake news present real risks to our values and stoke divisions within and between countries. Educating people to spot the wheat of truth from the chaff of lies becomes ever important. But the best way to call the bluff of propaganda is to build strong, trusting relationships. In the digital age, face-to-face contact becomes more important. It can be essential in sustaining respectful and peaceful ties with other countries against a headwind of misinformation and attempts to divide. Amid Twitter storms and alternative facts, we need meaningful relationships built on the bedrock of personal experience and trust. We can do this by encouraging more international student exchanges, collaborative global scientific, cultural and sporting connections, and rejuvenating school and civic exchanges. So this was John Dubber, the Head of Policy and External Relations at the British Council, writing a month or a few weeks before, due to the Salisbury nerve agent attack, the tit-for-tat expulsions resulting in the British Council being booted out of Russia. Now, of course, the Russians would say that the British Council was a propaganda machine, but of course the head of policy and external relations at the British Council was saying, well, actually, no, we're trying to allow some facts into the argument. But then there's a further letter, and this is from a fellow called Noel Hannon from London, and you can tell that he's a Guardian reader by some of the content of this, but I'll read it anyway. So Natalie tells us about a discussion with a group of young Russian journalists. Some were from as far away as Siberia, and were resilient to propaganda because they had got used to it, they claimed. I visited Irkutsk in Siberia in 1988. I had a meeting with a group of teachers who told me they loved England because of all our freedoms and our prosperity. I asked them if they had not seen pictures of on the TV, remember this was in 1988, of police attacking striking miners and of homeless people sleeping in doorways. They said they had seen this, but did not believe it. They thought it was just communist propaganda. So, people can claim to see through propaganda, but it's not that simple. So yeah, just some interesting letters, particularly bearing in mind that a few weeks later the tit-for-tat expulsions resulted in the organisation that was saying we really need to do more to overcome the divisions created by fake news and propaganda, then getting expelled from the country in which they were most concerned. But yeah, I just thought those were quite interesting, particularly with the whole fake news thing. Obviously I've been involved in politics, and I understand
well aware of it.
that everyone wants to put the most positive gloss on their stories, but certainly it got to the point I felt that it was a little bit like George Orwell's 1984. Whatever the government said, there was a group of Facebook warriors or social media campaigners who would believe the opposite, no matter what government said. They would believe the opposite, just because they had to, because it must be a conspiracy. There has to be a conspiracy out there, and of course, people who are trying to undermine confidence in a country or in society generally can have a field day with this, because they can purport to be serious journalists and say whatever they like, and people will believe them rather than believing the government. So yeah, interesting stuff.
It's been going on plenty of years now. Let's take a Manx track this morning then. End of the World. Here's Berlin Jag. Berlin Jag, or Jag. Is there an R roll of that one?
I'm sure that's a northern pronunciation. I would say Berlin Jag.
All right.
But basically Berlin is the word for a ship, or a long ship, or it's now sort of the word you would use for the Manx boat, Berlin. Oh no, that's probably a yacht really, isn't it? So Berlin is a yacht or a long ship, and Jerg.
Is it red?
Jerg is red.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That wasn't a bad guess, was it?
Pretty good.
End of the World. That was called. It's 19 before 11. And I was just thinking when we were talking about that, the letters there and the propaganda, and we're not going to dwell on politics too much, but of course what's happening in Syria and places like that. And then what really upsets me is families and people that fall out, and never speak for years. I was just talking about it to somebody last night, and my young fellow who's 6 now, he's wanting to know about everything about the planets and the sun at the moment, and it helps me in a way, because you're reading about it yourself. And then I look back, and then you think about the formation and the evolution of the solar system, the planet and the sun and all. And you think 4.6 billion years ago that happened, and people have fallen out over the stupidest things in the 80 or 90 years that we've got on the planet ourselves. out of billions of years. And I
Terry
just think-
Kringle would be just a lad 4.6 billion years ago, wouldn't he?
He caused the Big Bang, I think, didn't he? Right, let's take this, and then we're going to have a song, and then we're going to be talking more about some various things, particularly to do with the Isle of Man. Right, it's coming up to 11 minutes before 11 o'clock. Let me tell you about Sunday Opinion, first of all, before we go any further. This week, Roger will be in conversation with Helen Butters, one of the team of 4 working mums who became the first women to row across the North Sea and hold a Guinness World Record for rowing 3,000 nautical miles across the Atlantic Ocean during the world's toughest rowing race from the Canaries to Antigua. So she'll be a guest.
I was just before you said Guinness Book of Records, I was just picturing this team of 4 women holding a Guinness as they were rowing across the North Sea.
No, but Helen Butters, she'll have plenty to talk about. One of 4 working mums, as I say, became the first women to row across the North Sea. And that Guinness World Record as well for the rowing 3,000 nautical miles. There you go. So that'll be very interesting indeed. She's the guest of Roger Watterson on Sunday Opinion, just after the 12 midday news today, and then Roger presents the Man Line from 1:15 until 2 o'clock. Talking about the world, the world has been blessed by Manx music.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but there's a couple of things that have been happening recently. The one personal thing, which kind of links into the story before about cultural exchange and why that's important, particularly in a time of fake news, was a week last Saturday. We had a reunion, the 40th year since the Manx Youth Choir was formed by Alan Pickard. And sadly, Alan is no longer with us, but we had a reunion and it was fantastic. I think I was probably joined 38 years ago rather than 40 years ago, but it was great to get everybody back together again singing, and brought back memories of the quite incredible trips that we had behind the Iron Curtain with Alan off to the Soviet Union to start with. As the Manx Youth Choir, and then to Czechoslovakia again before Czechoslovakia changed the Czech Republic and
now
Slovak.
Czechia now.
Yeah, fascinating times, and certainly if it's taking your perceptions as I would be about 16, 17, maybe 18 at the time. But taking the perceptions you had of what the Soviet Union would be, and then actually going and visiting the place at a time where it was very much the Cold War was on, and there wasn't really the exchange of fact. It was very much a case of one side's propaganda against another's. It was quite fascinating to find out a little bit anyway about how the other side lived. I'm all for cultural exchanges, particularly when there's a few beers involved, which always adds to the fun. So,
Did you get that high note on Walking in the Air 38 years later?
Well, only when I'm walking on a Lego. They reckon the most painful thing in the world that you can walk on is a Lego brick. And I would certainly vouch for that.
Kids have thousands of them as well. Lovely. Okay, plenty more to talk about in the next hour as well. Well, you're not going to see much out of the Manx glass and glazing today because it's going to be cloudy with hill fog and scattered outbreaks of rain developing this morning, becoming more widespread and quite heavy at times, then turning more showery late afternoon. Moderate or fresh east or southeast winds and top temperatures today of 11. Showers or a spell of rain overnight will gradually move away late in the night as the brisk winds veer south to southwest with a minimum overnight temperature of 8 Celsius. The outlook dry and bright for Monday with spells of sunshine. Tuesday morning will be wet and windy with strong to gale force southerlies, and the rain will be heavy at times. Let's hear it in Manx now with Phil Gawne.
Well, nach rawi brawers jay ons yn green och a trai. Bádjalach leis cé Ernest Legion as fiabris y mach mor a Jew, chit de vei na spelcha as trubm na kieten. Esht na smú frasach na sanma san jasta, Gia menach na bioa vain yan and yas as tempralis smoo mush jeg Celsius. As an reet chirim as gial jaloon le shell and grianach tempralis giri dus jeg Celsius lesh an gia nyataga vain jas na jas shia. Esh bodgelach na samma rosh me vissen flia chitterash fud na he.
No way. Objection Tango from Shakira getting us into the second hour of Morra Jedoonee. You're a tango man, Phil?
No, not particularly.
No?
No, I haven't been tangoed, I'm afraid. So,
Not more rumba.
yeah, maybe, yeah.
Or just the rum.
Well, oh gosh, what did I do? I was in that, what do they call it? The, the
Strictly
the
Come
Manx
Dancing
version
thing.
of the Manx version of Strictly, whatever they call it. I can't think the name of it. Victim support, what's the name? Gelling. Is it Gelling?
Paula.
Paula Gelling
Yeah,
was organising it. I was in that.
Yeah,
and
John Kenyock, my old
Yeah.
mate John partnered Paula, I think, to
Right.
victory, didn't they?
Gosh, yeah. No, I didn't get as far as victory, I have to say. What was the one I did? The kind of the one where you're supposed to be the. Oh gosh, I'll think about it anyway. I'll tell you another time.
We dressed up as the bullfighter.
Yeah, that's the one. That kind of thing.
Paso Doble, was it?
Paso Doble,
Right.
yeah. Or the Paso Doble, as we call it in Manx.
Say so.
But yeah, I can't really go, because I don't think we've mentioned it on Morra Jedoonee. I know it's been mentioned elsewhere, but we really can't go with a Morra Jedoonee programme, without mentioning the great success of Manx harpist Mira Royal when she won the young
BBC Folk Award,
BBC
yeah.
Folk Award.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic accolade, and just really shows what amazingly talented young musicians we have on the island. I mean, obviously, Culture Vannon, who sort of joint sponsored the programme with the Gaelic Broadcasting Committee, Culture Vannon have been paying for harp tuition on the island, so there's quite a lot of young harpists on the island now. Some really good talent being developed there. And then, of course, the other award was I think it was called the Horizon Award, at which Tom Collister and Adam Rhodes, again, two youngish, certainly young in my terms, Manx musicians, together with the rest of their band, EMA, won this award called the Horizon Award, again at the BBC Folk Awards. Just really demonstrating how fantastically well we're doing culturally. I mean, you could almost say it's the cultural equivalent of going off to the Commonwealth Games and winning a gold medal. You know, it's great that we're managing to do so well and produce such fantastic music on the island. So well done to all these new up and coming musicians. The only thing is, for old, what's the opposite of up and coming? Losing their talent rapidly, musicians such as myself. It can be a bit galling sometimes going into the pub and these tunes that you remember playing as a young fella, and they're all playing these tunes about 9 times to the dozen, and my fingers are just getting slower and slower, and I can't keep up because I play the fiddle a bit myself. But,
All right.
But yeah, it's great, fantastic.
I was going to ask you about which instruments you are a genius at.
Well, genius is not the word, and I probably ought to do some more practice. That's the thing. I used to do a lot, but
Practice
not so
makes
much.
perfect, they
They
say.
reckon.
All right.
But you must tell us more about your Air United days as the cat in goal.
Well, yes, I did. I was lucky enough to play in goals for a few years in the under-14 team for A United. With Bill Bithell, the late Bill Bithell.
Right.
He used to give up his time. You don't appreciate it when you're little, but he used to mentor us, and managed to get myself into the island squad for the under-14 island team. So I played a half of that against a team from away.
Bit of a superstar.
Yeah, and we were sort of, our family was sort of with the Air and Michael Football Clubs, I suppose. My brothers played more football than I suppose I did in adult years. I played for Michael as well in the Cowell Cup sides and the under-18. I remember going to one match, the late Bernie Kermode, Alan and Ian, their dad, he used to keep an eye on us on the football, and there was a bit of a rush to get there one day, and there was a bit of a breakdown in cars. Tommy Quine's Ford Popular, I think, had broken down, and the whole team went in the Ford Cortina of Bernard.
Gosh.
You wouldn't do it now. The whole team was in it.
There's lots of things.
We're only little, like,
but
the whole team was in it. But I remember, we played a match once, so I'm not going to where we took it, but there was a bit of abuse going on. This was, I suppose I was 17, 18 then, and there was abuse on the sideline, abuse of the players. And I caught the ball near the goal line, and one of their forwards knocked me into the back of the net, ball and all out in my hand, and the ref gave a goal, and and I never played again. I thought this just isn't.
No, that sounds miserable. Mind you, that brings to mind. There was an old fella from Craignash was telling me one day about the Howe team playing the Balladool team, because of course Balladool, maybe 100, 150 years ago, there would be an awful lot of people, a lot of staff about, because there was a big mansion house. There was a kind of model farm at Balladool as well. So there would have been lots of hands about, but this would have been, I suppose this must have been about 80 years ago. The fellow would have been recollecting, and you had to be tough to play by the sounds of things. There was no holds barred. It was a very a very aggressive game of football.
Big hobnail boots and things.
But it's interesting to think, that places like Balladool would have their own football team. So yeah. And where they would be playing football on the Howe, I don't know, because it's all hills up there.
But I certainly had, I'm not knocking football, I certainly had some great memories of the under-14 teams and that I played for Ayr and Michael, and the under-18s as well, and the Cal Cup sides, and the Ramsey Grammar School, middle school.
Yeah.
A lot of the players that I played with were very good Isle of Man footballers, so I was lucky in that respect, but just wasn't for me. I took up some other sports, badminton and things like that, which I'm still playing.
Good.
Trying anyway.
Well, we will definitely talk about Cherokee after the next...
We will get to it. 24 past 11. Time to update you on the weather and the duty chemist rota for today, which is the 15th of April. Cloudy with some hill fog and scattered outbreaks of rain developing this morning, becoming more widespread and quite heavy at times, then turning more showery late afternoon. Moderate or fresh east or southeast winds, and a top temperature today of 11. Showers or a spell of rain overnight will gradually move away late in the night as the brisk wind veers south to southwest, with a minimum overnight temperature of 8 Celsius.
Well, I'll do a bit of a summary this time. Bardulach leis K pretty much describes it as fliar.
Rubbish.
Bardulach leis K as fliar. Cloudy Bardulach leis K with mist as fliar and rain. So Bardulach leis K as fliar is very much the forecast for today. As Chirim as Gial, leis Shell and Grianach. Chirim is the word for dry, as Gial and bright. Leis Shell and Grianach with sunny spells. Right. Leis Shell and Grianach. That's Monday. And then Tuesday, you're back to Bardulach leis K as Fliar. But you also get a gale, Nyatal, a strong gale. It seems to be a bit of a yo-yo sort of a week in terms of the weather.
OK, thank you for that. It certainly is, and it's Jedoonee with Phil Gawne and myself, Simon Clarke, through till 12 today on Jedoonee. It means Sunday morning. And Cherokee, let's get into it. I've wrote it down, so I better not forget it.
Siyo, Ozigwatsu.
Wazo. It's French for bird.
So that was apparently, and forgive my pronunciation, any Cherokee speakers out there, but that is hello, how are you? To which you're supposed to reply, Ozigwo.
Ozigwo.
I'm fine, or Tammy Brow, as we would say in Manx. So this is about saving an endangered language. Socio-linguistic scholar Ben Fry helps revitalise Cherokee. I found this on Twitter. I follow a group called Endangered Languages on Twitter. It says here, walk past the Abernethy Hall room on any given Friday afternoon and you'll likely hear the sounds of an endangered language wafting through the halls. Sio, hello. Ozigwatsu, how are you? Ozigwo, I'm fine. And then Yinya, and you? Ozda, great. So it's Annie Cowie or Cherokee coffee hour for students interested in learning to speak Cherokee. So American Studies assistant professor Ben Fry started the coffee hour in 2013 after returning to the University of North Carolina. It is one of many ways he is working to revitalize the Cherokee language. Indigenous people have spoken Cherokee in North Carolina for 11,000 years, and now only 238 people, that's 1.4% of the 17,000 citizens of the eastern band of Cherokees, speak the tribe's Kituah dialect. Most of them are 65 and older. So preserving a culture's language is important, obviously, for many reasons. Unique knowledge and traditions held by these cultures can offer solutions for today's pressing challenges, from environmental sustainability to healthcare. Connecting to one's heritage helps individuals and communities understand who they are, says Ben Fry. Fortunately, Frey's research on how language use declines or shifts offers a path forward to revive this endangered language. And again, I suppose they're talking about 238 people. If the census is to be believed, in 1961 we only had 161 speakers, and by I think it was 2001. We'd gone up to nearly, I think it was more than 2,000 speakers.
Really? Yeah.
So it shows that you can turn things around for a language. And of course, Manx, was the first language to challenge UNESCO. It was the children at the Bunskull all wrote to UNESCO complaining that UNESCO described Manx as an extinct language. And of course, all the kids from the Bunskull wrote in Manx, saying, we're writing in this language that you're describing as extinct. How can that possibly be? Because clearly they were communicating in this apparently extinct language. So UNESCO was forced to introduce a new category of revitalized language. So Manx was the first recognised revitalised language in the world. So again, another world first for the Isle of Man with regards to the language. Cherokee still has original native speakers, so it couldn't be described as extinct or revitalised, but using models such as the one that we used in the Isle of Man can help Cherokee be revitalised.
Just wondering if some of the younger ones, when some of the older Cherokee ones are saying, I was all, and be thinking, there's a good old Cherokee accent out of there.
Yes, I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are. Yeah.
Probably because all the sort of get this American and English slant on everything, I suppose, don't they? Cause so
and it's different ways of thinking. I was reading, unfortunately I couldn't find the articles. I was going to mention it on the programme, but there was an article I read somewhere about different thought patterns. So it was basically, it said, it was asking a range of different people how they would describe themselves. And of course, most studies, particularly in regard to mental health and culture and thinking, are undertaken by various doctors and professors at universities talking to their students. But of course, their students tend to be privileged people from Western backgrounds. And actually, when they tried doing a little bit of research into people from other backgrounds, they found that there were quite marked differences in the way that people think. So when you're asked to describe yourself, Western people of a certain privileged background tend to talk about themselves. They would describe themselves in relation to their job or in relation to their prowess as a goalkeeper in football or whatever it might be.
I'm the third son of the Earl of Derby.
However, in the sort of Asian cultures, they describe themselves as their community or the people, the community to which they belong to. Right. So it's quite a different way of thinking. Some fascinating stuff that I only wish I could remember where I read the article. Otherwise, I would have enthralled you with more information on that.
Well, you can enthrall us by introducing our second Manx track from Barul today.
Yes, this is Vaneinstja Dewl. which is a fantastic song, but I think this is just an instrumental version. And towards the end of the programme, I'll give you some the Manx in English of some of the verses of that. We haven't got time for Marinus and Tiger this time, maybe another occasion.
Okay, let's hear Barul then and Einshir Dowell. Yeah, it's deep and accordionish, isn't it, Phil?
Yes, it's a lovely song that, and apologies, I hadn't realised that Greg was Greg Jochen, the foremost elderly Manx folk singer on the island, was singing there with Barul. I think he did a few guest appearances there, but yeah, he's got a beautiful voice, really fantastic singer.
Barul and Einshir Dowell.
Yeah, the evil woman.
The evil woman. Okay. More with Phil and myself after this. It's 17 minutes before 12. Maura Jedoonee, let me tell you about Sunday Opinion after the 12 midday news today. This week, Roger will be in conversation with Helen Butters. She's one of the team of 4 working mums who became the first women to row across the North Sea and hold a Guinness World Record for rowing 3,000 nautical miles across the Atlantic Ocean during the world's toughest rowing race from the Canaries to Antigua. Yes, very interesting. That'll be Helen Butters, the guest of Roger Watterson on Sunday Opinion today, just after the 12 midday news. Then Roger presents The Man in Line from round about 1:15 through until 2 o'clock. Well, I wrote down biological evolution, trans something, so I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, well, actually,
get it wrong.
this sort of sprung into my mind. I just happened to be reading about something else and found this, but it's also reminds me a bit of His Majesty the Soul. I don't know, have you ever come across him? He's the fellow who's very interested in the Castle Mona, and I see again the Castle Mona, the sale has fell through and now it's up for auction, so no doubt His Majesty the Soul will be delighted at the opportunity to maybe buy it for a £5. But he was often talking about transhumanism. So what is transhumanism and how does it affect you? Biological evolution takes place over generations, but imagine if it could be expedited beyond the incremental change envisaged by Darwin to a matter of individual experience. Such things are dreamt of by so-called transhumanists. Transhumanism has come to mean different things to different people, from a belief system to a cultural movement, a field of study to a technological fantasy. You can't get a degree in transhumanism, but you can subscribe to it, invest in it, research its actors, and act on its intents. So what is it? The term transhumanism gained widespread currency in 1990 following its formal inauguration by a gentleman called Max Moore. It refers to an optimistic belief in the enhancement of the human condition through technology in all its forms. It advocates, its advocates believe in fundamentally enhancing the human condition through applied reason and corporeal embrace of new technologies. So basically, the central premise of transhumanism is that biological evolution will eventually be overtaken by advances in genetic, wearable and implantable technologies that artificially expedite the evolutionary process. So at the moment we've got things like hearing aids that you can stick in your ear, but the idea would be actually you could potentially remove part of your ear and put in an artificial ear that will do all sorts of extra things, so it'll allow you to hear all the high-pitched stuff that cats can hear, and all those kinds of things. And then you'd have eyes that could see through walls, or there's that's where this whole idea comes from. Think the $6 million man, the bionic man, that kind of idea. But actually, it's kind of laugh about it, but that sort of thing is starting to become more and more possible. Whether it's ethical or a good thing for society in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, so you can have the completely different ear on and what have you. But I know the blokes listening now will be thinking, oh, this will be a good idea. I wonder what the first bit they'll be wanting to
Well, yes, who knows?
Well, you've got to also, you mentioned about a Manx song.
Yes, well, the song that we just heard there
Yeah.
from Barul, which Greg Jochen so beautifully sung, is a song called An Vaneinste Dewl, the Cruel Mistress, or the Devilish Mistress. So I'll just do a bit of some of the verses of that, the first few verses. Ma haimi mach gesastan, she bedden sea viet me on, as fail moor any chebble dow, ma ailen rees on bladen. As I went out to England, a lady met me there, and wages good she offered me if I'd serve her for a year. Es lesh the cheben moorek, nach dal me ree ma shaw, the gull Mary gus Holland, ma vection ul you bio. Then, tempted with her offers, I did engage to her to go with her to Holland, if we should all be spared. Es leshtun vergeel saasten, ve gus me rimje trubben, a son ren me vedden einstje et dudge ons grai rum. Then, when we did leave England, it was my bitter grief because my old mistress, in love, had fallen with me. Ta taimur as tallow, merish erged as air, shen olju nymphs stalort, ma new fusa me. I have a big house and land with silver and with gold, and all this I will give to thee if thou wilt marry me. This is the mistress speaking to him. Have we got enough time for another verse?
Briefly.
Goramayu vednainstje hadjargums pusa nish, tammy and yenu gyaldan nach vod fi jesh fi brisht. I thank you, kind mistress. I cannot marry now, for I have made a promise that cannot be broken. To shen rish Moghrey Sally, and urge avent yo heen, o cred you mish veneinstje, Moghrey to leshi shen. It is to my dear Sally, your own chief waiting maid. Oh, do believe me, mistress, my heart it is with her.
Ah, the women asking, eh?
Yeah, so
they
there's
were
more.
the days.
there's more of that, and you'll find out why the song is entitled An Vaneinste Dewl, the Cruel Mistress, when I come back, and I think it might even be next week.
Wonderful. All right, good on my head, Phil. Thank you
go
very
to
much
my
indeed.
go to my heads.
We'll see you next week at the same time. So thanks for coming in. That's it for Mora Jedoonee.